Thank you. If you all can just take a deep breath with me, breathe in, breathe out. One more time, breathe in, and out. And one more time, breathe in, breathe out. So, that is how I start most of my voice lessons with my students. That's how I start my classes. And it's a way for us to just recenter ourselves. And a quote that I use, there's no better way to connect and express oneself than being creative. A phrase I like to make sure all of my students know, and the people that I work with. And as a person of color, and a black man specifically, it is hard to do that without being judged. And through time, this lovely photo of me, every time I see it, I think about a story that my parents used to tell me, is that I would go to our boombox, for those of us who know what those are, and would tune to the classical musical station to find classical music. Or I would pop a CD at the top, for those of us who know what CDs are, and would listen to classical music and try to find a way to pretend I was the conductor, pretend I was playing the violin, pretend I was the singer, and later picked up the violin, picked up piano, started my musical journey. It's a photo I come back to a lot to remind myself where I started and to recenter that this is the place I'm supposed to be. So after those conversations and going back and forth and listening to music, and my parents were like, okay, what does this mean? My great aunt heard me singing in church one Sunday and was like, get that boy into a choir. Then I was off to the races. At 6 years old, I joined Uniting Voices Chicago, formerly Chicago Children's Choir. Was in that organization for 12 years, traveled the world, sang in 40 different languages, did everything you could possibly think of as a young kid. Even though I don't look so happy in this photo, it was a hot day in Chicago, singing around town, one of our biggest festivals of the year, Paint the Town Red, and that was my community. I got to do really cool things, met Beyonce, sang for her, been on tour with Bobby McFerrin, shared stages with Yo-Yo Ma and some of the greatest musicians you could think of. Traveled the world to Japan, to Korea, to Argentina, to Germany, to Finland, to Latvia, and saw the world as a different way. And for me, the main connection was creativity in art, in music. No matter where I was, whether it was in Chicago or Los Angeles or New York or in the South, we all had one common thing, and that was music. We would join choirs from all over the world and all over the country and would sing together, and at the end, we would all be in tears. So no matter what languages we spoke or did not speak, we all had a human connection, creativity, being on a stage together, and music. So I said, okay, this is kind of a real thing. I'm enjoying this, I'm traveling, I'm seeing what's possible. And we did a concert with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra at the Ravinia Festival, and we performed Mahler 8th Symphony with world-renowned conductor Christopher Eschenbach. And it was that moment I said, I need to be in music. Singing with an orchestra, hearing the sounds, and the moment an orchestra tunes, I felt a sense of relief. And I was like, okay, my place is music. I need to be in music. So, went to DePaul University and studied opera and composition, thinking that that was my place. I got into the school, I transferred from another university to be more challenged. DePaul was that place. Did all the things, studied all the music theory, all the oral skills, really tried really hard, did everything I possibly could to graduate, which I did. This lovely photo, I was in the opera called Falstaff, sitting on a train, on my way to rehearsal, reading the score, a full score, and a lady comes up to me on the train and says, what do you know about that? I said, I'm a music student at DePaul University. I'm preparing for an opera. She said, opera? You know about opera? She said, people like you don't do that. Where's your basketball? Insert what else was said. I'll say the details. But that moment I realized I was not welcomed in that space. Classical music is traditionally a very gate-kept and a very elitist genre of music, mostly white or Asian. I could count on my hand the amount of black people in my class. There were about 5 of us, all singers. We all did our best to make our space in the classical musical scene. And that moment on the train changed my frame of thinking that I didn't want to be a part of that. Now, classical music has come a long way. I think they're figuring it out. They're investing in more people of color. They're trying to invest in black creators and black composers and black singers. Still didn't feel like home to me, and I felt very discouraged by that. And I thought, okay, I'll get my degree, I'll do what I have to do, get the piece of paper, because we all know people that look like me have to work twice as hard to be accepted, to be said that you can do this thing. So I became the music director at the 5th largest Catholic church in the country, St. Mary Immaculate in Plainfield, Illinois. Not too far from here, actually. Built a music program, built an orchestra, built a choir. No one else would give me a podium to conduct at. No one else would give me a choir to conduct. So I made it myself. Now, being in Plainfield, Illinois is still not the easiest place to be. I was probably one of 1 or 2 black people in that community, the only black person on staff. Came with its challenges, but I was still allowed creativity to move as much as myself as I could, while also realizing who I am, what I look like, and that still matters. But I was able to create and conduct and fulfill some sort of joy there, and do what was true for me was creating music, no matter how. I eventually left the church and went on to another endeavor full-time and dove into other creative activities. Created 1230 Entertainment actually back in high school, I'm going to go back a little bit, where it was a production house where I wanted to make music and create and get music on TV and do all the things. And I learned how to do that. I had a really bad experience. A lot of my music was stolen. I didn't know enough about entertainment law or about what the rules were. So went back to school, got a master's in entertainment business to learn entertainment law and entertainment marketing. And the production company, I flipped to artist management. My first client is sitting in the audience right now. We sat at a lunch after a Lollapalooza talk, and he was like, why don't you become a manager? I was silent for about 5 to 10 minutes. He says it's longer. And I was like, that's not what I want to do. That's behind the scenes. That's not cool. I want to be up front. I want to make the producer. I want to be a producer. I want to do all these things. Long story short, I became his artist manager. And now I have about 5 or 6 clients around the country and the world that I currently work with. But 1230 Entertainment, for me, I learned was the table that I was never allowed to sit at. So I created my own table. And for me, 1230 stands for December 30th, which was the day my brother was killed in a car accident in 2006. And I found, as a way of grieving and going through therapy and figuring out how can I honor his legacy but also keep pressing forward, I created a company. Realizing that that was my purpose, that the table that I was trying to always find a seat at, whether it was in classical, whether it was in the music industry, whether it was in production, whether it was in creative direction, I needed to figure out how to do it with the right people and for myself. So, worked with my first client, we sat in studios, we recorded music, we did all the things, I co-produced, he produced, we worked with people that we knew we had connections with to make everything make sense. So a pretty good thing. I got to stand behind some cameras, do some direction, do creative direction, some other production work as well, and finding that the only way I was going to make my space in this space was doing it by myself or with people that actually believed in what I wanted to do. Continued to create. I now produce a podcast called Unrelated with my first client and a good friend of ours, and it's a creative space where we talk about music, art, creativity, pop culture, and I was able to, that's all produced, managed by myself and my team, and looking at other people who try to be creative, we needed a safe space to do that, and I became that safe space. People came to us to want to bring us their ideas, to film videos, to make music, because they were finding it so hard to get through that path. And everyone knows a creative's path is never straight. No matter if you're a musician, a photographer, a dancer, there's always bumps in the road, but always create your own table if no one's going to invite you to theirs. And that's one of the biggest things I take throughout this whole journey that I'm still continuing to etch out and to figure out where do I go next. And if I do anything, is to continue to inspire, continue to lead from the classroom to the studio to the production space, on set. We must inspire the next generation to prosper through things that are hard. It doesn't matter if you're becoming a lawyer or a doctor or a physician of something very specific, it's hard. And there are ways to get through that by being creative, by tapping into something you haven't done in a long time. Not everybody is going to be a musician or a singer or the next Beyonce or Bruno Mars, but you can still impact with the things that you love. When I went to DePaul, I was also double majoring in biology. I wanted to be a doctor for the longest time, wanted to be a cardiac surgeon for kids. I had 48 hours to make a decision. They were like, you cannot do this. You will never graduate on time. It is too hard. And I said, okay. I obviously followed my heart, not something I was really interested in. But that was where I was supposed to be. And now, I think about medicine a lot. I think about how important it is. I read journals and still stay on top of things that are happening in the medical industry. But my heart and what I really am supposed to do on this planet is to be creative and to share my music, share my love of creativity, and working with people who are also creative. It is the best way to express yourself and to connect not only with people in the world, for folks who don't look like you, speak like you, talk like you, grew up different than you. Being creative and connecting in here is so important. And that's one of the greatest gifts I got from being in Chicago Children's Choirs, because we were all connecting through just one thing, creativity of music. And I will never, ever tell someone they cannot do something, because you must try and you must keep going. And the more you keep going, your path might change, but you'll realize what's really important. And a lovely quote from Leonard Bernstein: music can name the unnameable and communicate the unknowable. I like to end some of my classes this way. I like to end shoots this way. And a teacher used to end class saying, I'm grateful for music, and we would repeat it. I'm grateful for singing, we would repeat it. And the last line was, I am grateful for the people in this room. So I am grateful for all of you for allowing me this time, but I'm also grateful for what is out there and how we can inspire to continue to create. Creativity continues to be the driving force of connection, of change, of bridging gaps. And if you cannot get a seat at a table you've been trying to sit at, create your own table. Thank you.